So the paper of today's Anglicism input to Romanian podcasting, the Mark Architect case. Very short about the rationale. Tagged was one of the best-selling phenomena of the contemporary humanities. Web-based audio files, commonly downloadable to computers or mobile devices, empower individuals to worldwide to communicate, generate, meeting, and network while capitalizing on technological advancements and globalization. Thus, the paper approaches the podcast phenomenon within the ever-expanding scope of digital humanities to shed light on how this multimedia content reshapes human culture, communication, and identity. Thus, in what follows, we resort to dedicated software to record and investigate the impact of such digital resources in terms of language patterns and communication density in specific context. Addressing the joint effects of Anglicisms in Romanian podcasts, our research study aims to develop an integrated corpus-based investigation of a series of multimodal texts using MaxQDA data analysis software. In this respect, we set out to record any escalating trend with a view to the influence of English among an ever-increasing globalized community and correspondingly some specific language-related effects and novel communication patterns in Romanian. Under the circumstances, special attention was paid to the frequency rate of false friends that may trigger message neutralization, loss of nuances, and potential misunderstandings. In order to validate the above-mentioned hypothesis, we embarked on the design and implementation of a computer-assisted analysis model to look into the use of frequency rate of Anglicisms in Mind Architect, the first self-development podcast in Romania, grounded in psychology and neuroscience. And just a few key points in motivation and background. We keep in mind that podcasts are increasingly important in digital humanities and linguistic research, and Romania has rapidly growing podcast audience with over 3.2 million regular listeners aged 16 to 50. Also, to keep in mind that English terms are frequently incorporated into Romanian multimedia content, reflecting globalization and digitalization. Podcasts consider multimodal data for language and culture research. We point out that such content serve as authentic corpora, providing rich data for linguistic phenomena such as discourse analysis, pragmatics, and even phonetics. Research has explored conventional structures, intonation, pragmatic particles, and stylistic variation in podcasts. Additionally, podcasts support language learning by exposing learners to diverse accents and real-life topics, enhancing listeners and speaking skills. Studies have also examined podcasts' role in informal language learning and educational impacts. In terms of objectives and methods, the research study aims to analyze the frequency and use of Anglicism in the Mind Architect podcast, investigating whether English influences Romanian language patterns in podcasts and how false friend Anglicism may cause message neutralization or misunderstandings. The research also explores translation procedures facilitating the transfer of Anglicism, considering audience, context, and internationalization trends. Just a few aspects about corpus design and research methods. The corpus includes over 20 seasons of Mind Architect episodes spanning 6 years, totaling 30-40 minutes episode, focused on topics like stress management, leadership, and emotional intelligence. The corpus reflects Romanian professionals' language use in psychology and neuroscience with over 20 million listeners. Using MaxQDA software, the study imported multimodal data. We organized it chronologically and conducted both qualitative and quantitative analysis, encoding Anglicisms by morphosyntactic categories and translation procedures. In terms of quantitative findings, the analysis found noun phrases to be most frequent Anglicism, including terms like attachment relationship, pairing perspective, and toxic relationship, which often represent specialized or trendy concepts more familiar in English. Verbs such as know, want, and the neutralized verbs like abdata also appeared frequently. Adjectives like basic, super, trendy were used less often but increased over time. Adverbs and prepositions were rare, with examples including non-stop based on verses. The study observed a regression in noun phrase Anglicism, but an increase in adjective Anglicism since 2019. We have here one document portrait generated by the software by MaxQDA 24. Following the encoding of our text, the color-based labeling, in fact, we the software could generate a document portrait on the frequency of Anglicisms, and we had the chance to, or we can generate a document portrait per episode as well as per season or for the entire, for subcorpora or for the entire 12 seasons, that is the entire analysis corpora. Also, we could generate some word cloud to measure frequency rates in terms of word clouds. And this was at the corpus level, not subcorpora, just to have a better or a better overview of the Anglicism most frequently encountered in our corpus. As far as translation procedures and false friends are concerned, our research identified borrowing as 40%, calques 35%, and naturalization 50%, the predominant translation methods for Anglicism. Also, we had encountered examples of modulation, semantic translation, and cultural adaptation, though less frequent. False friends, words that appear similar in English and Romanian but differ in meaning, were mostly noun phrases transformed mainly by calque and borrowing. The study classified Anglicism into loanwords, pseudo-loanwords, shortened words, hybrid Anglicism, and foreign words, pointing out that pseudo-loanwords and hybrid Anglicism frequently caused misunderstanding. We followed the same procedure and encoded our multimodal corpus via or by means of a color-labeled coding in the attempt to show the frequency rate of false friends like pseudo-loanwords, shortened words, hybrid Anglicisms, and foreign words. And here it is a screenshot with both quotes set assigned. We step by step we succeeded to encode simultaneously the occurrence of Anglicisms and the use of translation procedures. Figure 4 indicates a distribution of translation procedures per grammatical category of Anglicisms. And here we have a distribution of translation procedures per grammatical category of false friend Anglicisms. As you see, we have the grammatical categories and the most frequently encountered translation procedures marked. In terms of semantic and pragmatic effects of Anglicism in the mind architect, our qualitative analysis revealed that some Anglicism altered meaning in Romanian, potentially causing confusion, for example, parenting, a pseudo-Anglicism with cultural connotation rooted in Romanian family rules, and pet can be ambiguous between animal companion and plastic material. Pragmatically, Anglicism meanings depend on context, audience, and tone, often used to signal expertise or modernity. The frequency of Anglicism discourse markers like well, anyway, and so has increased consistently since 2019 and the release of the podcast, reflecting growing acceptance in professional and motivational communication. In terms of semantic impact, we noted that Anglicism may alter word meanings, causing confusion or misinterpretation. Cultural references may not be immediately understood by Romanian listeners. As far as the pragmatic impact is concerned, the use is context dependent and, of course, signalizes expertise, modernity, or audience connection. High frequently and in a quite increasing since 2019, where discourse markers like encountered the discourse marker like anyway. A short results interpretation of the study concludes that noun phrase Anglicism constitute over 60% of the total of the Anglicism in our corpus, reflecting broad recognition of English terms for specialized concepts. Verb Anglicism account for 22%, including both common and naturalized verbs. Adjectives, 8%, adverbs and prepositions, 3%. In terms of translation procedures, we observe that borrowing, calque, and naturalization are the main translation strategies, while false friends are predominantly noun phrases transferred via calque or borrowing. While Anglicism generally facilitate communication and clarity in over percent of the cases, they can also lead to misunderstanding and loss of linguistic nuance, and the rise in discourse marker indicates integration of English elements into Romanian podcast communication. To conclude, podcasts have become key platforms for linguistic research, language learning, and cultural studies. Our study highlights the significant impact of Anglicisms on Romanian language patterns in multimedia formats, especially podcasts like the Mind Architect. It confirms that while Anglicism enhance clarity and communication, they also risk message neutralization and misunderstanding. Um, the research underscores the value of digital corpus design and dedicated software in analyzing language phenomena in contemporary multimedia context. Of course, for future, we aim at continuing the research, understanding Anglicism integration um, in the language policy, translation practice, and digital literacy initiatives. Some further research could expand to other Romanian podcasts or compare with other languages. And here are some references. And of course, I welcome any question or comments.